policing the police every single day. And doing what the Charlotte County Sun newspaper and local TV stations won't do every single day.
Change minds inside.
Colorado with a major issue in our state. With the stroke of a pen, Governor Polis ushered in new police reforms. The legislature crafted the law following the protests over the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis. CBS 4 political specialist Sean Boyd has covered every step of this measure. And Sean, certainly not the first police reform bill you've seen.
Jim, I've seen police reform bills fail here year after year. It took outrage outside this building to change minds inside. Democrats and Republicans, police and prosecutors came together. And sweeping reform, decades in the making, became law within days.
It's now the law of Colorado.
Just 16 days after being introduced, the landmark bill became law. But it came too late for Delisha Searcy and Greg Bailey, their son Devon, killed by police.
It had to take something happening to another black man in another state for anything to happen here in Colorado.
It wasn't until the death of George Floyd in Minnesota and the demonstrations that followed nationwide, state lawmakers acted.
We are talking about generations of pain and suffering.
This is a long overdue moment of national reflection.
The law, the first in the nation to hold officers who abuse their position personally liable, as well as those who don't intervene. Chokeholds are banned, body cameras required, and nonviolent crimes can no longer be met with deadly force. For many here, the changes are bittersweet.
It's not easy to stand on grief and pain for justice.
I'm hurt. I'm upset.
The bill can undo the injustice and won't end all the inequality, but supporters say it is a start toward restoring trust in law enforcement.
Can't legislate hate out of someone's heart, but what we can do is take a big step in the right direction and continue to commit to working on these issues.
Representative Harrod said those issues include divesting from police and putting more resources toward mental health care, for example. Expect legislation addressing racism in other areas, including housing, employment, and education next year as well. Live at the Capitol, Sean Boyd covering Colorado First.
Police. The measure gets rid of the...
We were going to restore the broken trust between law enforcement in our communities, and particularly our communities of color.
Today, Governor Polis signed a police accountability bill into law that legislators passed in the wake of protests over the deaths of Black Americans during encounters with police. The measure gets rid of the qualified immunity defense that protects police officers from lawsuits and allows them to be sued for misconduct.
It also bans chokeholds and limits some other uses of force as well. It requires all of Colorado's law enforcement officers who have contact with the public to be equipped with body cameras. The deadline for them to have those, July 1st of 2023. Unedited camera footage must be released to the public within 21 days of a misconduct complaint being filed. Colorado's police reforms as a whole are considered by many to be some of the most far-reaching in the country.
Now, this legislation specifically contains landmark evidence-based reforms that not only protect civil rights, but will help restore trust between law enforcement and the communities that they serve.
The new law also aims to influence the culture within law enforcement agencies. It forces officers to intervene if a fellow officer is violating use of force policies or face criminal charges themselves. And it prevents officers who were fired for misconduct from being rehired at other departments.
Capitol, where the governor signed a sweeping police reform bill into law, making Colorado one of the first states in the country to do so. A Black Lives Matter demonstration in Denver taking on a celebratory tone, though it was a bittersweet victory for some. KRDO News Channel 13's Crystal Story has been following the day's developments from Denver.
Lawmakers say this new law is the first of its kind in the United States. It creates a database of police officers who have use of force violations to prevent them from getting hired elsewhere. But Devon Bailey's family, who was here today, say this law is coming too late for their son. on a day of victory.
We passed Senate Bill 217, the first in the nation.
Celebrating the new law titled Enhanced Law Enforcement Integrity is bittersweet.
The governor signed this bill that came a little too late, a lot too late. I'm hurt, I'm upset, I don't know how to feel.
Bailey's 19-year-old son, Devon, was killed last August after he was shot while running away from Colorado Springs police.
Hands up! Hands up!
Both officers' actions were ruled as justified. Bailey believes a new change in the law that bans officers from using deadly force on a fleeing felon could have changed his son's outcome.
For Colorado to be the first in the nation to actually sign something to justify everything that they did to my son, to these families, that was justified, is now a law.
The bill was sponsored in part by Senate President Leroy Garcia from Pueblo, who believes this law will help agencies have the best officers.
Many of them are great officers. They have good integrity. They're in the business for the right reasons, to serve and protect. Those officers who aren't, this bill is going to apply to them. We want to ensure that we have exceptional officers out there working.
But he admits this is just the beginning. While protests across Colorado start to slow down, he hopes the community keeps the momentum for change. This law goes into effect immediately, but departments who still need to equip every officer with a body camera have 3 years to comply. At the state capitol, Crystal Story, KRDO News Channel 13.
Morning for both lawmakers. 19th, Governor Polis signs the police accountability bill into law. Lawmakers worked quickly and with law enforcement to get the reforms on the books after protests focused on the death of George Floyd. Political specialist Sean Boyd is at the state capitol. And Sean, this was an emotional morning for both lawmakers and families.
Yeah, this is bittersweet for the families who were here today. As one dad said, the law comes too late for his son. It is a first of its kind law anywhere in the country. Colorado, the first state to eliminate qualified immunity for police, allowing families to hold officers personally liable, civilly and criminally, if they're involved in wrongdoing. Officers who see wrongdoing and don't intervene can also be held liable. And if convicted, an officer will lose his police certification and his name entered in a database so he can't practice anywhere in the country. Chokeholds are now outlawed, and the law dictates when police can use deadly force. Someone's life must be imminently in danger. While George Floyd's death and the rallies that followed prompted the law, those here say police brutality is just as much a problem in Colorado, too.
How should I feel? It had to take something happening to another black man in another state for anything to happen here in Colorado. For Colorado to be the first in the nation to actually sign something to justify everything that they did to my son, to these families, that was justified, is now a law.
One of the sponsors of the law, Representative Leslie Herod, said this is just the beginning. She called for divesting from police to put resources towards services like mental health care. The legislature reconvenes in January. Live at the Capitol, Sean Boyd covering Colorado First.
Sean, thank you.
Hey, Sherri County, this is Sherri County COPWATCH. I am using any video here under fair use if you have criticism, reporting, teaching, etc. And please donate. I do not make money from YouTube, and there are different ways to donate in the video links. Thanks.